Thanks a lot, Mohens. And actually, it's a pleasure to be here and to speak after Jan. We were in New York 2.5 weeks ago, and actually Jan Gil was recognized by the Commissioner of Transportation and the Mayor of New York, and he received the highest award for contributing to New York to create world-class streets. So join me in congratulating Jan for that high award that he received 2 weeks ago. And last night we were talking about what the new campaign of the World Health Organization on how to get 1,000 cities or more to open up the streets to the people and close them to the cars. So I hope that many people that saw the presentation will go back and get their cities moving in this direction. And you know, some of these things sometimes is not really rocket science. Maybe what is rocket science is to get them done. Last year I was invited to Mexico to an urban planning conference, and I said, you know, why don't we ask the children, you know, to let us know how do they dream their cities. And look at this, how interesting they started doing drawings and thinking on what they were going to be doing. And half of the city was parks. And look at this, for example, Edgar. Edgar is only 13 years old. But Edgar said that he wanted a city with fewer cars and more people walking and more people cycling. And then he drew a space for pedestrians, for cyclists, for buses, and for cars. He's only 13, but he knows that if you mix cyclist and pedestrian, the pedestrian gets injured. If you mix cyclist and cars, the cyclist gets injured. So each one needs their own space. And then Edgar drew public parks, and he said low buildings with street-level activity. Actually, a few weeks ago, I was at the University of Toronto talking to urban planning people, and I said, well, you know, you better keep up your studies, because Edgar is only 13, and he just summarized Urban Planning 101 in one program. So it would be great to have cities. So we got to think, what kind of cities are we going to build? You know, in the last 40 years, the world population has grown by 3 billion. It doubled. Now it's not growing as fast, but nevertheless in the next 40 years we're going to grow by another 3 billion people. So we have a lot of challenges. We need to improve the cities that we have today, but we also got to create great cities for 3 billion people in the next 40 years. I mean, the US is going to grow by 100 million in the next 27 years, and cities are growing all over the place, but especially in developing countries. In Toronto, in the extended Toronto area is going to grow by 50% in the next 22 years. So not only does it have to improve the city that we have today in Toronto, Walk and Bike for Life, we're based in Toronto, but we got to create great cities for 50% more people. And these are some of the kind of things that we're doing. We're doing a lot of good things, but some not so good. For example, this community is going to grow in this area by 50,000 people. And in this, the first thing that the city is doing is they're building a park. And in this park, they did a master plan, and they're putting 16 soccer fields, 16 football fields, and then 4 arenas and 4 baseball. And then we got to start thinking, what does it make more sense? Does it make more sense to have 16 football fields in one place, or to have 1 field in 16 places? If we really want our kids to walk to the football field, to walk to kick the ball around, to throw a frisbee, to fly a kite, are we building car-friendly communities, or are we building people-friendly communities? So these are the kind of things. We got to think, how do we want to live? You know, for example, we want to have small schools so that the catchment area is small and people can actually walk to school. You know, it's not just saying, you know, don't waste a liter of gas to get a liter of milk if the closest place to get a liter of milk is 4 kilometers away. You know, we should be able to walk 500 meters in any direction and find a corner store to get the eggs and the milk, you know. But when we define the cities around cars, we only get more cars. And then we gotta go out and invite our friends to help us cross the street. And this isn't far from reality. We're living longer, we're getting older, the streets are getting wider, but when we define the cities around people, like they have done in Copenhagen, we get more people, and we get healthier, and we get happier people. And we also get better quality of life for all. And by the way, someone said the other day, Gil, why are you talking about quality of life if we're in the middle of an economic crisis? And I say, yeah, you know, precisely. In an ever more globalized world, the best people, they can live anywhere in the world. So why would they live in city X and not in city Y? You know, the reality is that the best carpenters, the best medical doctors, the best engineers, they can live anywhere in the world. So the best, it's not an issue of quantity, it's an issue of quality. You know, the other day I was telling in Canada, I mean, Canada is such a nice country that if it opens the doors, or Denmark, for 24 hours, it can double the population. So it's not an issue of quantity, it's an issue of quality. How can we attract and retain the best people? So the quality of life is the most important tool of economic competitiveness for any city. So good communities is not so much about engineering, it has so much more to do with people. So I really want to thank Iska and Morgan Skirkeby, the Secretary General, and the Board of Directors for inviting me to share some ideas. And let's take advantage of Mood 2009. Last night I was talking to someone about Velocity, and I reminded, you know, in '97 I went to Velocity in Barcelona, and Velocity is one of the sponsors of this event. And Copenhagen is hosting Velocity in June of next year. And after visiting the conference, I went back to Bogota, and in the next 3 years, we built 290 kilometers of bikeways. And at Velocity, we met the planners and the designers and the ideas to open up our minds. So, you know, Move 2009 has to do something like that. Each one of us have to go back to our respective cities next week and do something about it to have more movable cities where people are going to be more active. You know, and following Edgar's idea about what the city is like, I think, you know, where people really enjoy life is in the public places. You know, from a bird's eye view, most of the cities are private homes, private buildings, private offices. So where people are in the public space, that's where people really live, in the public space. That's where we develop a sense of belonging in our cities. That's what really makes cities different. That's where people are equal. We're in the public place. So I'm going to divide the talk in two areas. One is the streets, walking and cycling, and the other part is parks and other public places. So let's start with streets and walking and cycling. You know, what is the role of the streets? Because we can do streets, for example, this streets corner in New Haven, Connecticut, where you wouldn't want to spend one more second than you had to, and we got the community engaged, and we had the community what they wanted, and it was turned into a street corner that now became a great place. And then all of a sudden we got to start thinking, are we building streets for cars? Can you imagine what was the relationship between communities before this road was built, or streets for people? You know, do we want to build parking lots of 4-story highs would create a ghost city, or streets that have life in the street level and then have the parking in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th story? You know, do we want our streets to look like car storage, or would we like our streets to actually create community? You know, this is Copenhagen. I hope you're going to see this place. Here there used to be 93 cars were parked. And when the mayor said that he wanted to make this pedestrian, people started complaining. I mean, change is hard. You don't do change by consensus. If you want to have consensus, you have to water down the idea so much that it's not change any longer. And then because someone said, you know, if people don't park in front of my restaurant, I'm going to go broke, and so on. But the mayor said, you know, the general interest must prevail. And he made it pedestrian. Do you think that anyone went broke in this wonderful place? A great place any time of the year. And yesterday we were saying that we are thinking and we're talking about walking and cycling and public places, but we are not doing enough. In Copenhagen we are, but most places around the world we are not. So how can we move from thinking and talking to doing? And yes, we are facing a perfect storm, but we also saw how Copenhagen took advantage of the crisis of the 70s and the oil crisis and said, we're going to change, we're going to be friendly, we're going to promote solar energy and wind power and walking and cycling, and they went beyond the baby steps, and they are transforming to a fantastic city. So why do we say it's a perfect storm? Because we got traffic congestion, and we got global warming, and we got obesity crisis, and we got an economic crisis. So we're going to face this. And part of facing this is coming up with benefits. You know, if we have more walkable or bikeable or public place friendly, this is good not just for one thing. We're not talking about how we're going to take someone from point A to point B. No, that's not it. It's how we're going to create cities that are vibrant, where the communities are healthier and people are happier. So we got to come up with benefits for the environment, for economic activity, for recreation, for transportation, and for health, which is the acronym for it. Let me give you an example of one benefit for each. From the point of view of the environment, of course, there's a lot less gas from walking or cycling or taking transit. Also space. If all of us are going to go one place, you know, we could walk, or we could take cars, or we could take a bus, or we could take bicycles. So there is no doubt that walking, cycling, and transit takes up a lot less space. You know, it's very, very clear. But from the point of view of economic development also, when you get a walkable, and the minister said it very clearly, then not only you got to be active, but you got a brand new city, and then you get more people. Minneapolis gets 14.5 million people of visitors to use their trails and their chain of lakes, and some trails that are interwoven into the community, and they go along the Mississippi River, and so on. And it's great, but it's good for economic development. From the point of view of recreation, there is a clear trend all over the world. People are moving away from organized and scheduled activities to unscheduled, unorganized. Things that people can do any time of the year, regardless of the age or the ethnicity or the economic condition. And so this is a clear trend, and this is why also having walkable cities is so important. But let's move into transportation, because that is a major crisis. Too many people are driving to the gyms to walk on the treadmills. And there are other problematic symptoms, like Jan said, others have shown the photo. Yeah, but you know, this is real. What's amazing is, you know, what people do when they go in. They pay a fee, they go in, what do they do inside? They walk up and down the stairs. They could have done it for free here. So, you know, walking and cycling is a mode of transportation, you know. We gotta take walking seriously. You know, to have proper walking facilities is not something nice. Oh, we're so nice, we're gonna do something for the pedestrians. No, walking is like a human right. It's the right to mobility. And actually, in most of the cities, even in the most sprawled cities, you know, over a third of the residents do not drive. You know, everybody under 17, about 30% of the over 60. And if the cities are not as sprawled or as wealthy, then it's 50 or 60 or 70%. So to have proper pedestrian facilities is a human right.